Welcome to the Beantown Podcast for February 23rd, Saturday, 2019. What's going on? Quinn David Furness here, host and creator of the Beantown Podcast, now featured on beantownpodcast.com. This is the Beantown Podcast, the People's Podcast, one of Baltimore City's top 500 podcasts. What's going on? How are you? What's happening? Coming to you somewhat live from 817 St. Paul Street. It's our Oscars special. The Oscars are tomorrow night, ABC. Been doing this for a couple of years now, where I get into the Oscars, watch all the best pictures, and then the last 2 years or so really ramped it up and just trying to see as many movies as possible. But we're really excited to be doing this. Before we get to our guest here, listener discretion is advised when you're listening to the Beantown Podcast. Number one, we'll occasionally use some objectifiable language. And number two, this podcast is objectionably terrible. So, as we did last year, we are going to be joined by a special guest and a dear friend of the podcast for our Oscars predictions. He is movie extraordinaire, the man, the myth, the legend, the co-host of the Car Ride Convos Podcast and the co-creator of ReekEntertainment. Go find him on YouTube. It's the one with more subscribers now. Ryan Ligon, what's going on? Welcome to the podcast.
What's up, Quinn David Furness? Thanks for having me back on the show. This is my third appearance, I believe, on the show.
Right.
And I'm really getting the vibes. Like, you know how John Mulaney is always on Seth Meyers all the time? I think I'm the John Mulaney of your show, I think. So.
I like that. You're going to have to wrestle with my brother Jack for that title, but...
I forgot. So I'm more like, I guess I'm the Nick Kroll then. I'm the Nick
maybe
Kroll.
like a Fred Armisen, the guy who's just kind of always there. Yeah,
exactly.
Ryan, who are you wearing tonight?
I kid you not, I am wearing a Bud Light shirt that says Dilly Dilly on it, unironically. So, yeah, this is rock bottom.
Did you go to Talladega last year to get that, or where did you acquire such a shirt?
You know, I'm not even that cool. I think I bought it at an Old Navy, and I was like, you know what? This will always be funny.
And here we are. The listeners are just laughing, I'm sure, right now. Laughing and loving.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, well, so last year we did our Oscars nomination special, year one. I promised on previous podcasts I was going to go back and listen to it to see how we did. Life happens, didn't end up getting there, so I'm just going to assume we both basically aced all 24 categories, and it's looking like we're going to do the same thing again this year. So you all know how this works. We don't take shortcuts on the Beantown Podcast. We are going to go through every single one of these GD categories, and Ryan and I are both going to make picks. I promise we're not going to dilly-dally on these categories that no one really knows anything about, nor Ryan and I are educated about. And that's not to diminish from these these movies. That's just kind of how life goes. So we are going to go ahead. We did a little bit of different order last year, so we're going to try something new this year. Instead of just kind of going through all the random ones first and then getting to the heavy hitters, we're going to kind of mix it up. We're still going to save acting and Best Picture for last, so you can jump towards the end if you'd really like to hear our predictions for those. But we are going to get started with some big categories here. We're going to start with writing original screenplay. So this is original screenplay. The 5 nominees are The Favorite, First Reformed, Green Book, Roma, and Vice. And these are all 5 movies that are very well regarded, received pretty good reviews across the board. First Reformed is really the only one in here that's not really kind of an Oscar darling. This year didn't get very many nominations, which is a shame because First Reformed was on my list of favorite movies this year, and Ethan Hawke not getting a nomination for First Reformed is an absolute travesty of justice. But Ryan, when we're talking about original screenplay, what's standing out to you?
So I mean, I'm definitely with you. I really want to pick First Reformed. I really enjoyed the movie. I'm not even an Ethan Hawke fan. I kind of think that guy blows the majority of the time, and he was great in that movie. But I honestly think that The Favorite is going to win because, like you said, it is quite a darling. So, and I don't think it's going to win very much that night. So I think they're gonna send this one home with an award.
I'm with you. So I was doing a little bit of research before this and just, trying to get an idea of, okay, what films do I think are going to do very well? What films might get snubbed and might only grab one? And The Favorite was kind of one of those that I don't know, just the way it's feeling to me right now kind of feels like it might only pick up one or two, even though it's nominated, I think, for 10, which is tied with Roma for the most. I'm pretty split here between The Favorite and Green Book. But what's going to tip the scales for me is Green Book has got so much negative press, surrounding sort of not only the story but just the creation of it, and I think that could bode well for The Favorite in this category. So I'm with you. I'm going to go with The Favorite. Like a lot of what we're about to do, I don't really feel confident or great about that, but I do think it's going to be either The Favorite or Green Book, and my gut's telling me to go with The Favorite right now. Let's go ahead and go where you would expect us to go next. So the other writing category is for adapted screenplay. This is another tough one. We're dealing with Ballad of Buster Scruggs, Can You Ever Forgive Me, A Star Is Born, Black Klansman, and If Beale Street Could Talk. So Beale Street, another movie that I don't want to say it was snubbed because it did get multiple nominations, but Beale Street not getting nominated for Best Picture, especially when they have 10 nominations available and they only used 8. To not use one on Beale Street, to me, is a little strange, I guess is what I'll say. But writing adapted screenplay, Ryan, how are you feeling here?
This one, again, I feel like we're in the same train of thought. And I've seen all these except for Can You Ever Forgive Me? I don't know where you can even see that movie at all. I think I saw a trailer for it maybe, because that's the one with, I don't remember her name, but
Melissa
she's
McCarthy.
in, I'm sorry?
Melissa McCarthy.
Yes, exactly. Yes, her. But man, I saw this movie. I really like it, and I don't think it's going to get a lot of other awards. But Black Klansman, I think, is gonna win, and I think it's either that or If Beale Street Could Talk. It's got to be one of those two. Got to be.
We are so far in the exact same train of thought. I would like to see Beale Street get this because I don't think it's going to do much else. But I agree. I think Black Klansman was a really interesting story. It was very well written. It's just a great film in general. I'm going to also go with Black Klansman here. I'm really kind of under the table rooting for Beale Street, though. I'll root for anything James Baldwin wise. He's a fantastic American author. And unfortunately, I feel like a lot of his stuff, particularly in like the high school system, is never going to get read because so much of it deals with gay culture, racism, homophobia in like the 60s and 70s. And it feels like, at least in my experience, most American literature classes are focusing on 18th century, 19th century, and then occasionally getting into some early 20th century books. But James Baldwin is, I don't know, to me, like super relevant to a lot of what high schoolers experience, especially if you're a student of color or an LGBTQ student. So I don't know, any exposure that his stuff can get, I'm always a fan of. Have you ever read any James Baldwin books, Ryan?
No, list them off for me. List them off his greatest hits.
So he's got this one, The Fire Next Time, Go Tell It on the Mountain. I read one this summer called Giovanni's Room, which I think is a good starter for James Baldwin one because it's pretty easy to digest and it deals with a lot of the primary themes that he deals with, but it's also pretty short. I think it's only about 130 pages, so you can move through it. I think I read it in a day. But James Baldwin is just great. His works center around Harlem in like the 1960s and 70s, so right around the civil rights movement. But a lot of the stuff, if you saw Beale Street, a lot of what he deals with there is similar to sort of the larger themes that he touches on in his books, but he was also a gay black writer, so a lot of those themes are coming out as well. Hang on a sec, we're getting a FaceTime call, which we got to decline. Wow, this is live air. You gotta love it. So yeah, I mean, if you're ever, I don't know, obviously free time, spare time is tough to come by for anyone, but just something like Giovanni's Room is a good kind of starter. But some of his best are usually considered to be The Fire Next Time, which is a collection of essays, I believe, and Go
nice.
Tell It on the Mountain. So he's a really good guy to, read one of his works, and if you like it, then the rest of his works are similar to that. So when you get the chance, he's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I'll have to do that. I have an ever expanding rating list. I like throwing all sorts of stuff in there. So he'll definitely make it.
Yeah, he has my highest recommendation. So, okay, let's get into some categories. If you thought that we didn't feel very confident in those two categories, you're going to love about the next 10 or so. So we're going to get started with visual effects, which is a category I don't remember specifically. I'm pretty confident that I did not get this one right last year. Our 5 nominees are Avengers Infinity War, First Man, Solo, A Star Wars Story, Christopher Robin, and Ready Player One. For the sake of time, I don't really have any discussion here. I mean, I could talk about all 5 of these movies, but I don't really have much to go off of here, Ryan. What are you feeling?
I would just assume just Avengers Infinity War. I mean, I like you, I could probably talk about these, how like 3 or 4 of these movies totally sucked, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Ready Player One just like is a tough thing to adapt in general. Christopher Robin, pretty standard Disney, although I do like Ewan McGregor. Solo, I have mixed feelings on. I don't think I hate it quite as much as other people. That's because I am reserving most of my hate for The Last Jedi. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't think this is a dark horse, but I'm going to kind of go back to what we were talking about with First Reformed earlier, a movie that kind of got snubbed and don't think is going to do much elsewhere. I'm going to go ahead and take First Man here. The Damien Chazelle movie definitely did not reach its kind of lofty Oscars aspirations that it set out with, but I'll take First Man for visual effects. I think that's half because I want it to win, but also half just me being like anti-comic book movies. And not comic book movies, but just like the MCU. I can't keep track of all the stuff. I don't know. I'm sure Avengers Infinity War was great. I never saw it, so I don't really have any thoughts about it.
I'm with you, man. I am with you. These are tough categories, and they're going to go on for like the next 6, so...
Yeah, so this is interesting. So we got our sound categories coming up here. There's 2. There's sound mixing, there's sound editing. And I remember distinctly this time last year having a conversation with you about these categories and wasn't sure where they were similar, where they're different, if I should pick the same movie for these 2, if I should pick different ones. I definitely went with the different ones, and I got it for one but missed it for the other one. So Dunkirk last year won both of these awards, and honestly, I'm kind of just feeling like I'm going to trust that this year, and I'm going to pick the same movie for both of these. And so I'm going to take, and I guess we'll read through the nominees, but they are, let's see, not exactly the same. Okay, so they're close, but sound mixing is Black Panther, First Man, A Star is Born, Bohemian Rhapsody, and Roma. And sound editing is Black Panther, First Man, Bohemian Rhapsody, Roma, and then the one difference is that sound editing has A Quiet Place, which might be its only nomination, and sound mixing has Roma. So I'm not the sound expert. Don't ask me how these 2 categories are different. Clearly, they're not that different. I'm taking Bohemian Rhapsody for both of these.
Nice. Very nice. Because of the fact that again, like we talked about last year, I know nothing about these categories, and if I were to explain, I think I may even tried to explain them last year, and I remember listening back, and I was like, I think I just explained them both in opposite terms, and so I think I confused a lot of people. But I'm just going to throw it out there and just say Black Panther for sound mixing and A Quiet Place for sound editing.
Okay. You're pulling a Quinn. You're going in two different directions here. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay, we are about to reach sort of the bottom of the barrel here in regards to what movies we're discussing, because I can confidently say in the next two categories I've seen one of the 10 films. So let's move through these. We're going to start with short film live action. I don't know anything about these movies other than that the people I've talked to who have seen the live action shorts have just said that they're really depressing. So our 5 nominees are Detainment, Marguerite, Skin, Mother, and I'm going to butcher this French maybe, Fauve, F-A-U-V-E. It looks like Favre, but with a different letter. I don't know. I was reading online before this trying to get any semblance of an idea. I'll take Marguerite. It's a gut thing. What are you feeling?
I'm going to have to pick Detainment. I have not seen any of these films in this category, and, it's my own fault.
Are there any theaters by you that are playing the shorts right now?
They actually don't. I mean, there's, last year, there is a theater in Cambridge that played all of the live-action shorts, but they did not play any of the animated shorts or the doc shorts. And I think it's because the animated, I can't speak for the documentary shorts. The animated shorts, as far as I know, are very accessible.
Yep, I've heard that.
So, yeah, I mean, I think you can find the majority of them on Vimeo and YouTube. But again, I've only seen one of the animated ones, so that hasn't made it any better. So,
yeah, I was thinking about going to, so my local kind of art/indie theater does show the shorts, both animated and live action, and I was thinking about going to see the animated ones last weekend because it lined up with my schedule better. And then I was reading online about how they're available, so I was like, let me not spend my $12, which is terrible, but let me not spend my $12 to go see them. And then turns out a week has passed and I haven't seen any of the animated shorts. Well, other than the one that's Pixar, which we're about to talk about now. So short film, live action, Ryan's taking Detainment. I'm taking Marguerite. Our confidence levels are at an all-time high. It's like going to ask a girl to high school prom or something.
Totally.
Short film, animated, Animal Behavior, Late Afternoon, Weekends, One Small Step, or Bow. And Bow is the Disney. I believe it's Disney. It's not it's both Disney Pixar. That's how they get you. I have seen that one. It's like the weird kind of creepy making a dumpling and he grows up and then he gets. I don't want to spoil it, but I'll take Bow simply because it's the one I saw, and that's a terrible way to pick, but I gotta trust my gut.
Yeah, I'm same with you. It's the only one I've seen, so it's the one I'll pick.
Okay, let's get into production design here, a category that I feel like I want to be better in terms of my knowledge of, and I'm just not. So let's just talk about it here. Black Panther, First Man, Roma, The Favorite, or Mary Poppins Returns. I probably should have tried to do some research on this, but boy, I know what production design is. I get it, but in terms of differentiating these films, I don't actually feel that amazing. Mary Poppins Returns I have not seen. I have seen the other 4. I'm going to go ahead. I'll take Black Panther for production design. I don't know if that's the favorite or if that's a dark horse, no pun intended, but I will take Black Panther here.
I am torn between The Favorite and Mary Poppins Returns. And I want to pick The Favorite, but at the same time, that kind of deviates from my previous pick where I'm like, oh, this is going to be the only one that The Favorite wins tonight. So I guess I'll just stick with the train of thought. I'm going to go with Mary Poppins Returns.
Did you get to see it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Was it good?
You know, I'm going to be for real. Like, it was nice. Like, it was a nice movie, but I didn't grow up watching Mary Poppins. Like, I was a kid. I grew up, the only thing that we had access to is Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. So I wasn't one of those cool kids that watched Mary Poppins. So it was not a nostalgia trip for me at all. But I thought Emily Blunt did really good, and I thought her, you know, she was nice, and of course they had the little Hamilton flair going on and stuff like that. It was fine. It was good. Yeah, the nostalgia is just not there for me, so that's hard for me to speak to it completely and with confidence.
Did they give Dick Van Dyke a cameo?
Yeah, I think they did.
Okay.
I wasn't paying much attention, and he was, because I've seen him in something else. There was something else that I saw him in, and I was like, oh, he's still alive? Because I think he was like on top of a table or something. He was like dancing. I don't know. I can't remember what exactly that was, but I'm pretty sure he's in this movie.
I would hope so. I haven't looked into that for myself, but considering that was one of his more iconic roles.
I'm a terrible person to ask about that sort of thing because I was someone who I was talking with my wife about, Saoirse Ronan. That
yeah, you got to say it in an Irish accent. Saoirse Ronan.
Yeah. So I was talking about her, and I was like, oh, yeah, she started in Harry Potter. She's that Luna Lovegood character.
Ooh.
And, not the same girl. Not the same girl at all. So I'm terrible with faces. So if it's not an overt thing, I'm not the person to ask. But I think he's in it, I'm pretty sure.
It's similar but different.
Yes, exactly. It could have been like Craig Ferguson or something. And I'm like, oh, that's Dick Van Dyke.
Very similar, just like 40 years of age difference, but I'm with you. Yeah. I think this next category, at least for me, is a no-brainer. Music, original song, all the stars from Black Panther, The Place Where Lost Things Go from Mary Poppins Returns, When a Cowboy Trades His Wings for Spurs from Buster Scruggs, I'll Fight from RBG, or Shallow from A Star Is Born. It's a no-brainer. It's going to be Shallow.
Totally agree. Complete cultural phenomenon right now with that song. In the movie it's based around isn't a terrible movie. Like it's a solid movie to watch. I mean, in my opinion, very predictable and very it was exactly what I thought it was going to be, but that song is really good. So
well, it's the fourth time they've made it, so if you were around for one of the first three, then you kind of get a sense of where it's going.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you ever see Crazy Heart?
No, but I always... Is that... No, it's not directed by... Crazy Heart is that guy, though. Rourke? Mickey Rourke, right?
No, I like just sitting here and listening to you talk things through. Crazy Heart is Jeff Bridges. He won an Oscar for that.
Oh, same guy. Mickey Rourke, Jeff... Hartnett, whatever you... No,
Josh Hartnett, what?
Jeff Bridges. Okay, yeah, now I know what you're talking about. I don't know why, but I'm like imagining the wrestler right now. I don't know why.
The wrestler Crazy Heart, I get them mixed up all the time.
Yeah, I've never seen either, but I'm getting them mixed up currently right now.
Well, they're both really good, but I like Crazy Heart. It's not similar in that they have the same storylines. They're just like both music movies, but Crazy Heart's really good. Jeff Bridges won Best Actor for it. This was probably about 10 years ago. It's got really good music too. It's Jeff Bridges and Maggie Gyllenhaal and Colin Farrell.
Nice.
So just kind of I don't know. I watched it on a plane like 4 years ago. First time I saw it, but solid film. If you're just looking for a film that's like going to be a good use of your 2 hours, then Crazy Heart's a good choice.
Nice.
Let's go ahead and get to makeup and hairstyling. So we've got Border, Vice, and Mary, Queen of Scots. 3 nominees in this category for makeup and hairstyling. I feel like the Academy tends to reward the movies that really go all out. And I guess you could say that about Mary, Queen of Scots, but I'm feeling more Vice here simply because of, all those characters that they portrayed are, still people who are alive today. I think the Academy likes that. And I also don't know anything about Border. I don't know what it's about. So I'm going to take Vice for makeup and hairstyling.
I'm going to ditto your choice as well. And I actually... Border. I'm going to have to look into that. Oh, so obviously it looks like some sort of Northern European, possibly German guy, Goran Lundstrom, was involved with it. So maybe
Swedish.
It might be like a German film or some sort of European film.
Yeah, it's Swedish.
Swedish. Okay, there you go. So, close. Also, we missed the original score. We missed that category. We skipped over it.
Hang on.
Unless yours is in a different order. It may have been in a different order.
It might be. Hang on. We're searching. Well, let's go ahead. We'll talk about that right now because that is actually one that I'm interested in discussing. So when we're talking about Best Original Score, and you are right, I definitely skipped it. Thank you for grabbing that, or else we'd be talking about Best Actor, and I'd be like, what happened to the score? So Music Original Score, this one is very interesting. We have Black Panther. We have If Beale Street Could Talk. We have Mary Poppins Returns, Black Klansman, and Isle of Dogs. So, the first thing I want to say about this is, and I really would have to watch it again before I'm able to substantiate this opinion, but when I was watching Black Klansman, and I only saw it for the first time about a month ago, the score to me was actually something that stood out as something I really didn't like, which is...
Dude,
do you feel the same? Yeah,
right?
I don't know, like, if it was, like, the weird electric guitar or what was going on, but I was like, dude, this isn't... I don't know what type of score I'd be expecting, but I just felt like it wasn't working for me. It detracted from the film, for me, at least.
I completely agree, and that was something that Kristen and I watched it the other day, and I was like, what did you think about that score? And she phrased it perfectly. She's like, I thought it was completely inappropriate. Like, it starts out with this sweeping shot over the, Colorado mountains and stuff, and there's this weird drum beat that's just, like, really rocky and kind of, like, it's bizarre. Like, it's very weird. I can't even describe it. Like, watch that movie, and just, like, that score will blow you away how, like, offbeat and weird it is.
Yeah, maybe the Academy knows something that we don't, but I just really didn't get it. I don't usually...
agree.
Scores are usually something that, as much as I love music and I'm a background in music, they're not usually something I notice unless it's, like, a composer that I am actively interested in or looking forward to going into the movie. Usually it's just like blends into the background, whatever, it's fine. But Black Klansman was just, it left a really bad taste in my mouth from a score perspective. So the opposite of that for me is Beale Street. So Nicholas Britell is a younger guy who hasn't done a lot, but he did the score for Moonlight, which is Barry Jenkins' other film. I absolutely love that score, and I think it's fantastic.
No wonder I love this one so much, because that other one is really good.
Yeah, it's pretty simple, but it fits perfectly in that, I don't know, his music that he's created, both Beale Street and Moonlight, they would be absolutely, in my opinion, not even close to what they turned into without those scores. And so from what I've been reading online, it doesn't sound like Beale Street is the favorite here, but I just got to go with what I want to see win here, and I got to take Beale Street because I loved that score too.
Nice. Well, here are my thoughts kind of condensed into a very small little sound bite here. Black Panther's score is bad. It's really bad. Black Klansman, we've covered that. It's strangely abrasive. I don't understand why it was used in the way it is. If Beale Street Could Talk, I really liked. Isle of Dogs, this is the only movie I didn't see in this category. I didn't see that, which is surprising because it's a Wes Anderson movie, but I just never... It's one of those movies that kind of came out in the late summer, I believe, and I just kind of forgot about. And then Mary Poppins Returns. It's great. It's nice. It's happy. But I can't imagine it winning in a world where we're detaining children at the border and separating them from their parents. So I'm going to have to go with Beale Street Could Talk.
Okay, very good. Yeah, it feels like a toss-up to me, but it is interesting that, you know, I saw Black Panther long enough ago that I don't have the same reaction, but I would watch it again and pay closer attention to that. But yeah, Black Klansman, you and I both on the same wavelength there. That was, I don't know. I don't get it straight up, but oh well. Let's see. Foreign language film. So this is an interesting one that seems on its face value, surface level, like an easy one to pick. But I was reading a couple things earlier today that might negate that. So foreign language film, we have 5 here. We have Capernaum, Never Look Away, Shoplifters, which I've heard is amazing, Cold War, and Roma. I'm a little underprepared in this category. I've only seen Roma and Cold War. Roma we will talk about in depth in a couple minutes here, I promise. Cold War, for those of you listening who I assume most of you probably haven't seen, Cold War is a Polish film, like a love story that takes place across like about 15 years, but it's really solid, and it's a really beautifully shot film as well, and that's why it's nominated for cinematography. I was reading online that they might sneak Cold War in here because Roma is such a strong contender for Best Picture, but I'm not gonna play around here. I'm just gonna take Roma for Best Foreign Language Film.
Nice. Well, I've seen Roma. I've seen Cold War. I haven't seen any of the other ones, so when I watched those, I just, with foreign language, I couldn't help but like watch the two contenders, you know?
Yeah.
And I think what's really weird about the Oscars is whoever wins this category between the two, it's going to be really telling how the night is going to go. Like, if you're in Vegas that night, I guarantee you odds are going to swing really far one way or another if Roma or Cold War wins. It's going to be really telling about, you know, how things are going to go that night. But we'll come back to Roma later whenever we start talking Best Picture, but I'm going to have to... I liked Cold War better.
Yeah, it was beautiful. They're both really good films, both pretty slow pace, so if you're looking to turn something online and be like completely 100% invested in something and have your attention captivated for 2 hours, then those aren't the movies for you. But hopefully, you know, for those of you who listen out there and you do get the opportunity, if you haven't seen either of these films yet, and that's not to negate the other three, and I've heard really good things about Shoplifters, and Never Look Away, I think, is nominated for cinematography, something like that, Caleb Deschanel. And I don't know anything about Capernaum, but these foreign language films are really strong. You just have to improve your 2019 social media attention span a little bit, because you're going to be reading subtitles the whole time unless you speak these languages. So
exactly.
Yeah, we're going to do a couple more here, and then we're going to take an ad break, and then we're going to get into some of these heavy hitters. So another one kind of like production design, where I wish I was just more educated or informed, but we have film editing here. And the 5 pictures we have are Black Klansman, The Favorite, Vice, Bohemian Rhapsody, and Green Book. Editing is a thing where, again, I know what it is. I don't feel like I'm a great judge of it unless it's the type of movie where it's like really, they do something really blatant with it. So, for instance, a movie like Green Book or The Favorite, I would have to have somebody who really knows films come on here to like tell me why those movies are nominated because they're really good movies, but the editing to me just seemed like very standard. I don't know. So I'll go with my gut here because I don't think this movie's going to get a ton else. Although I've already picked it for one thing so far. I'll take Vice on film editing.
Nice. Very cool. Very cool. I'm going to have to pick Black Klansman, and it's kind of hypocritical that I am picking Black Klansman because I pretty much just trashed the score of that film in the previous category, and the editing, just like the score, is really abrasive and odd, and there's some decisions made in the third act of the editing that are, I can really only say bizarre because they just happen in the third act and happen nowhere else throughout the movie. And I'm no genius. I don't know what's going on. But maybe Spike Lee is trying to say something. So I'm going to have to pick it. Maybe there's some sort of weird commentary on something that I don't know about. For whatever reason, he chose what he chose and he did it. And I think it wasn't awful compared to the score. So I'm going to go with it. It was daring. It was different.
Yeah, I appreciate what you said about maybe Spike Lee's trying to say something, and maybe the same thing about the score. But yeah, it's, I mean, these are, directors who this is what their whole life is based around. So it certainly would not be surprising if some of them are, trying to not necessarily sneak things in, but just do things their own way without really explaining what it means to them. But I don't know, and I consider myself a cut above just like the casual movie watcher, but I don't have any professional training in film analysis or anything like that. So I don't know, maybe you're right.
To clarify that, I don't want people to be like, oh, is he talking about, at the end where he cuts in the Charlottesville stuff or, the other visual things? No. I understand what he's trying to say there. I'm not very surface level. There's for some weird reason, it happens with, he does this weird stutter edit in the third act that I can't explain why it starts there, and it only happens 3 times. And I think it happens twice whenever someone's hanging up the phone. It'll, go from the close-up shot, and he's putting down the phone is in the thing, and then it's a wider shot, and then the guy's still putting down the phone. It's this weird thing that happens, and I don't know why it's there. So I didn't want to get called out for being some person who's like, you didn't understand what he was saying about how, racism is bad. No, I understand that. I totally get it. It's the other weird stuff that's a little bit more above my pay grade. I have no idea what's going on,
Yeah, I'm with you. I think you should do a 60-minute YouTube video analysis of the film editing in Black Klansman. Just throw something together.
Yeah, definitely.
We have 2 documentary categories here, and then we're going to take a break. So documentary short subject, I'm going to go ahead and put myself out on a limb here and say, despite what you've heard so far, this category is the one where I feel least informed, because these aren't even titles where I'm like, oh yeah, I read something about that. I don't know anything about these. So we have Black Sheep, Lifeboat, Period, End of Sentence, Endgame, and A Night at the Garden. And I don't even remember reading an article that made a pick here. So I can't even be trying to pretend I know something when I've actually just been reading. I'll take Black Sheep because who doesn't like race and racism? I don't know. That's all I got.
I agree. I have no idea. You know what? And actually, I'm looking at one of these titles, and it says one of them is on Netflix, and it came out in May. It's called Endgame. Mm-hmm. Oh, Endgame. It's about people choosing to end their lives early, I think, in the United States and other places. I should have seen that because I have seen none of these at all. So I'm gonna pick one in the dark here and say Period, End of Sentence. I have no idea.
It's a very, very good choice. Women's reproductive health documentary short. So
nice.
I have no idea. I assume it's not, but I don't know. Let's see here. Documentary feature, something that is more I don't want to say more interesting, but something that I feel a little bit better prepared to talk about. So we have 5 nominees here. We have Free Solo, Minding the Gap, RBG, Hill County, This Evening, and Of Fathers and Sons. And inextricably missing is Can You Be My Neighbor, the Fred Rogers documentary. I haven't read a single thing online that like explains it in a way that makes sense to me why this isn't included. Do you have any insight?
Dude, well, okay, so that movie and Peter Jackson did a movie where he restored a bunch of World War I footage, and I tried to see, like, and I talked to one person. I was like, why did those 2 movies not get nominated? And someone's like, oh, well, the Peter Jackson movie isn't a documentary. And I watched a trailer, and I'm like, it is a documentary. Like, it is quite literally, and it came out in, it had a small release in, maybe they didn't, I know you have to register for the Oscars. Maybe they just didn't register. I have no idea why, but those are 2 heavy hitters that are just not here, and I don't want to hate on Ruth too much, but RBG is not that great of a movie. Like, I know that there's a movie about her coming out with why do I want to say her name's Valerie Jones? Her name's not Valerie Jones. Someone's playing her, and she's the girl from it's the other movie with Eddie Redmayne, and he plays Stephen Hawking.
Oh, Josh Hartnett.
I'm sorry?
Josh Hartnett.
Yeah, Josh Hartnett, definitely Josh Hartnett. No, it's the female that plays across from him. Anyways, she's playing an adaptation of Ruth Bader Ginsburg's story, and I heard it's awesome. So I'm sure that'll all pan out. But I watched this documentary, and I was like, meh. I was like, how did my man Mr. Rogers? Whatever happened to him?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't get it. I'm not really sure. That being said, we do have some kind of heavy hitters here to play with. So I do want to briefly, and I don't want to spend a ton of time because we're already 42 minutes in, but I do think we owe it to ourselves to mention Minding the Gap here. I am going to hope that you've seen it.
Oh, of course.
So for those of you who don't know, Minding the Gap is not explicitly about the city of Rockford, Illinois, but Rockford, Illinois is the backdrop. And I will say, not mixed feelings, but just in terms of like, I feel good, but I feel bad about it. Just like a wave of emotions watching our hometown depicted in that way. A really powerful film. If you just watch the trailer, you might think it's just about like skateboarding, and that might not be appealing to you, but skateboarding again is just kind of like Rockford, just kind of the backdrop, kind of the medium. It's really about things a lot deeper than that, and for both of us being from Rockford, we get it more than just your average watcher. But really want anybody out there listening to this, please watch Minding the Gap. It's not just about Rockford, it's about kind of Rust Belt Midwest cities, and some of the humanitarian issues that we're facing today. Loved it. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I can't speak. It's one of the best things to ever come out of Rockford because of the fact that there's just this current wave in Rockford that's very like almost like industrialized hipster, that's just kind of painting over things and putting on a happy face and being like, look at Rockford now, we've changed. And I think that Minding the Gap is one of the most honest windows into what it is growing up in Rockford, who you're surrounded by, what it's like, and the exact emotions you can feel while being there. Like I would go as far to say as if you were to watch this movie and you're not even from the Midwest, you'd know exactly what it's like to be there, which is just, I don't know. It's a special movie. I can't speak any higher than I already do. I'm so biased, and Bing Liu and I went to the same film school. I didn't know him personally, but I'm sure we brushed shoulders at some point because we were both, renting the same equipment and in the same classes and stuff like that. But yeah, totally awesome that he was able to put together such a special movie. And he's got 2 more documentaries on the way, which is fantastic. I mean, the more work for him, the better,
Yeah. Yeah, that was really good, really hard to watch, and really hard to even talk about right now. But yeah, if you get the chance, it's on Hulu. Everyone needs to watch that movie. In terms of picks, I don't know. From what I've been reading lately, it seems like Free Solo is kind of picking up some momentum. I haven't seen it, which is a shame. I don't think Minding the Gap is really getting that kind of national level of attention. A lot of the people I read seem to be saying, yes, this is the one that really should win, but nobody really seems to be giving it a fair shake. So I'm going to take Free Solo, although if Minding the Gap won, that would just be the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, I've seen Free Solo, Minding the Gap, and RBG. And, I've already talked about, didn't like RBG too much. Free Solo is really good, but who wants to give National Geographic an Oscar? Are you kidding me right now? Like, I get it. The dude free climbed over the side of a huge cliff. That's great, right? That's awesome. I'm picking Minding the Gap, and I want Minding the Gap win. Yeah. I don't think they will. I think I'll probably shed at least one tear if it happens. I mean, that would be wild.
I mean, just to have like a RVC film kid get invited to the Oscars is pretty shocking and pretty awesome, just on its surface level. All right. Well, we've gone about halfway, probably a little over, which is good because we're 45 minutes in, and I always start thinking we're gonna go quicker, and then we never do. But I think we've had good discussions so far. So let's do some advertising, and then we're gonna jump right back in. Not gonna waste any time. Are you tired of selling your house for less than a quarter of what it's worth, all because you couldn't find a reliable home inspector in time? Well, Oregon listeners, there's good news. Home Pride Inspection Services in Bend, Oregon is Central Oregon's hottest new home inspection provider with inspection services including things like heating and cooling, roofing, plumbing, and so much more. Home Pride Oregon is both contractor certified and home inspection certified, so you know you're getting the good stuff. If you're tired of big real estate stranglehold on the home inspection market and you want a safe, certified home inspector you can trust, call Steve at 541-207-1101 or visit homeprideoregon.com. That's 541-207-1101 or visit homeprideoregon.com. Home Pride Oregon, inspection perfection. Want to give a shout out to the Samsung Q2U series, pulling some double duty here tonight on our Oscars special. Don't forget, when God speaks, he uses a Samsung. And I also want to thank TV Guide. Thanks to my Spirit Delta Airline Sky Mile points, we have our first copy of the TV Guide. As a reminder, I don't have a TV, but if I did, I would know what's on. So looking forward to that copy with Dan Connor, played by John Goodman, on the cover, and it just says he's back when the Connors return to ABC at some point in the near future. So we are doing our 2019 Oscars prediction spectacular, as we were last year, joined by special guest, co-host of the Car Ride Convos Podcast and creator of ReekEntertainment, Ryan Ligon, out there in Quincy, Mass. What's going on, Ryan? Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on. I think we're doing a solid job so far.
You have any categories you want to go back to and change your picks, or you feeling good with what you've done so far?
Man, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling confident, and I'm just ready to roll.
All right, that makes one of us. Very good. Here we go. Very interesting category, and something. Well, there's the front runner, but there's still some discussion to be had. Directing Best Director, we have Spike Lee for BlacKkKlansman, who somehow, and I didn't know this until 2 months ago when they came out with the nominations, but somehow this is Spike's first nomination, which is crazy. The Favorite, Yorgos Lanthimos, a director who I was introduced to in a film class in college. If you think The Favorite is kind of weird, don't go watch Dogtooth or The Lobster, because those movies are going to give you nightmares. Adam McKay, Vice, of course, Adam McKay's Step Brothers, and then The Big Short, very similar production to Vice. Pavel Pavlovsky, the surprise of the year, getting nominated for Cold War, which is great because Cold War is a fantastic movie. We've talked about it already. Any more exposure it can get, that's great to me. And then the frontrunner, Alfonso Cuarón, directing Roma. You might know him from Gravity. He's the frontrunner. I would like to see Spike get it, although this isn't my favorite Spike Lee film across the board. It would be nice to see him get it. I think Yorgos Lanthimos is a true dark horse. I don't think he's going to get it, but I wouldn't mind that because as crazy as he is, he's a very creative guy, kind of like Guillermo del Toro in terms of just like some of his stuff is out there and some of it I'm with, some of it I'm not. But I think Alfonso Cuarón's going to win in the directing category this year.
I'm gonna ditto that as well. I think that I think a good rule of thumb with the Oscars is that your Best Director category is typically has a strong relationship with Best Picture. So Roma's going to be my pick here. Still, at this moment, actually, to be completely transparent, I'm not exactly sure who I'm going to be picking as Best Picture, but I think this is going to really affect my decision. So.
I like that. It's live air. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I read, and don't quote me on this, but I think Pavel Pavlovsky, however you say it, Pavel Pavlovsky, excuse me, I think he's only the second director in history to be nominated for Best Director without his movie being nominated for Best Picture. So that's just kind of a neat little thing.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's as much as I liked Cold War, I would have loved to see something like Paul Schrader get nominated for First Reformed, or even Deborah Granick get nominated for Leave No Trace. But I don't think any one of those could win because this seems to be Alfonso Cuarón's year.
Yeah, you just reminded me. I watched Leave No Trace this year. I like that movie. I don't know. I'm surprised there's not a single category. I mean, obviously there are always snubs. Looking at you, 8th grade, and obviously Leave No Trace. But I watched that on a plane, and I really liked that movie.
It's so good. I've seen it a couple times. I'm a big Ben Foster fan, and I find that most of my acquaintances don't even know who he is. But Ben Foster was really good in what was the Western movie? What was that called? Hell or High Water.
Yes.
He was really good in that. And just the acting in general. Thomasin McKenzie was so good. And it's interesting to me that Winter's Bone was so Deborah Granick's first movie, and this is her second movie. But Winter's Bone came out, like 8 years ago, something like that. And it received a decent amount of just overall attention and obviously Oscar stuff. Leave No Trace was just such a small thing, but such a powerful story that it's really a shame to me that it didn't get any attention this Oscar season. Yeah, really sad. If you're looking for the uplifting story of the year, do not watch Leave No Trace. But it's also really interesting to me because it takes place in Oregon, and just being more familiar with that place myself. And I read the book, actually. After I watched the movie this past spring, I went online and bought the book. It's a pretty simple thing. It's like most adaptations, similar but different to the movie. But yeah. Did
the same guy who write Winter's Bone, did he write that one too?
That's a great question. I'm not sure, and I will look this up right now. I'm not sure who wrote Leave No Trace. I know the author. So the author of the book, Peter Rook, is a professor at Reed College in Portland. But
no,
I don't think he wrote the screenplay.
The other guy lives in Missouri. He's he lives in some weird backwoods part of Missouri.
Well, that would make sense considering Winter's Bone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But they both have Dale Dickey, who is just like the creepiest looking actress in Hollywood. Excuse me, but she plays her role perfectly. So
no joke.
She was good in Leave No Trace as well, with limited screen time. Mm-hmm. Let's do costume design here. One that I feel pretty confident in. So we got Ballad of Buster Scruggs, The Favorite, Mary Queen of Scots, Black Panther, and Mary Poppins Returns. These were all solid, although I haven't seen Mary Poppins Returns. But I'm going to take The Favorite. It was just so elaborate, so extravagant. It seems like something that's going to win. I don't know. That statement doesn't really make sense, but I'm taking The Favorite here.
No, I'm with you there, except for I'm actually going to pick an upset here for my own reasons. But I think the Favorite's funny because it's comically elaborate. I mean, obviously it's a very funny movie, so it makes sense and stuff. But I thought it was just completely enjoyable. But I'm actually going to pick Black Panther, and I'm sure I'll bite my words later. This is not an endorsement of the film, but I think it has to walk away with something. You know, it can't. That's got to be right. I don't know. We'll see. That's got to be.
I like your strategy here. It's got to win something.
Yeah, I mean, don't you gotta give someone a participation trophy somewhere in here? I mean, gotta be right. I mean, the Oscars were ballsy enough to nominate Black Panther for Best Picture. I mean, you gotta give them something. I don't know. We could spend an hour and 20-minute long podcast at why Black Panther is in the Best Picture category. And there's a couple others in there that I just think are completely bizarre. But maybe we'll come back around to that. I don't know.
We're definitely going to come back around to that.
Yeah, Black Panther's gotta win something, because you have to, as the Academy, you have to double down and just be like, they are here for a reason, because they're not going to win Best Picture. I'm sure there's some guy who just put like $1,000 on that in Vegas, and if it does happen, he's gonna be able to buy like the biggest skyscraper in Cincinnati. But it is what it is.
Fair enough. Does Cincinnati have skyscrapers?
I don't think so.
Yeah, never been to Cincinnati. Maybe someday. It's not that big of a city, but
I'm surprised they haven't sent you to Cincinnati.
Well, as part of my work territory, I have Kentucky, and there are actually, Cincinnati does have suburbs on the Kentucky side, but I've never gone, because it's like a 2 to 3 hour drive from Lexington and Louisville, so it's just far enough away where I'm like, I don't want to go all the way up there, because then once you're there, it's like there's nothing else really going on. The Ohio River Valley is pretty, but in terms of like actual people, there aren't very many people there. So
I mean, who wants to even be there anyway? The best thing there is the Bengals, and they're pretty much only good for 8 and 8 seasons. So
did Marvin Lewis finally quit or get fired?
Yeah, no, I think the word is he was let go. I don't even think there was because last year it was I think I'm going to step down, and he didn't. And I think this year they were like, you're fired.
Yeah, they were about 5 to 10 years too late, but at least they finally did.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of the couple in Minding the Gap who they keep staying together, and you're just like, what's the deal here? But building connections, that's what the Oscars show is all about.
That's what this is all about, man. This is what this is all about. This is what it's all about.
Mm-hmm. Well, we are getting dangerously close. It's getting hot in here to some of the biggest categories of the night. We've got two big ones before we get to the very large fish that we have to fry. So let's start with cinematography. We have Cold War. We have Never Look Away, the Caleb Deschanel movie, famous dad to Zoe and the other one. We have A Star is Born, we have The Favorite, and we have Roma. And I got to go with my gut here. I liked this cinematography so much. I'm taking Roma here.
Nice. I agree, and I'm with you on the Roma pick. But to note, I was weirded out at how much I really liked the cinematography of A Star Is Born. And also, like to throw a little bit of a shout out here for Caleb Deschanel, who was the cinematographer on one of my favorite movies of all time, The Last Temptation of Christ. Now that's a throwback.
Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, Willem Dafoe. Great YouTube video where he breaks down his career. Just came out last week. Very fascinating. I think it's like 30 minutes long. Really good.
I watched it. I loved it.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
So you're taking Star Is Born?
No, I'm taking Roma. Sorry, I went on a tangent, but I'm with you on the whole Roma thing. It was very good, and actually, maybe he does this normally, but Alfonso Cuarón did his own cinematography. Yeah. That's kind of neat.
It's very neat. Yeah, I don't know much about directors doing their own cinematography, but yeah, that's pretty cool. I agree with that.
Yeah, I'm sure it happens from time to time. Yeah, so.
You haven't seen Never Look Away, have you?
I have not.
I've seen, so my art theater shows a trailer for it every time I go, and it looks solid. I think it's a World War II movie, but yeah, haven't gotten the chance to see it yet. I had never heard of Caleb Deschanel until it got nominated, and then I read about him and realize it's a family thing. So
yeah,
interesting. Okay, one to go here, and then we're getting down to our final 6 categories. We're doing our best with time here. So animated feature film. We have The Incredibles 2, Isle of Dogs. We have, what is this called? Mirai, is that what it's called? It's like not giving me regular titles. It's strange. We have Ralph Breaks the Internet, Ralph 2. And then we have Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So I've seen Incredibles 2, I've seen Isle of Dogs, I've seen Spider-Man. I haven't seen the other two. Everybody seems to be saying it's going to be Spider-Man, and I liked it, so I'm just going to trust them, and I'll say Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, I've only seen, because I'm an absolute weeb, I've seen Mirai, was really good. And I have not seen Ralph Breaks the Internet, and I've said before, I have not seen Isle of Dogs, and I have not seen Incredibles 2. But I have seen Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and I am not a superhero. I'm not one of the, yeah, of course I'm not a superhero, but I'm not, one of those superhero fanboys. And I honestly believe that this is the best movie I've seen all year.
That's high praise.
That's what I was about to say. I was like, that's the highest praise you can get from a non-comic book sort of. I mean, I don't know. They had me at the frame rate. It's like 3 frames per hour and a half, and it's awesome. I don't know why I like that aesthetic so much, but it worked for me. It did well. I think it's not perfect. There are some mistakes in the movie, but there's mistakes in every single movie. But it's such a compelling story, and I have not walked out of a movie feeling so great in a very long time. So, such a great feeling.
All right, that's a social on animated feature, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Okay, we are down to acting and direct. Oh, we already did directing, didn't we? We're down to acting and we're down to Best Picture. So Let's go ahead. Let's jump in. I think so. I don't know how you're feeling. We're about to find out, but there's 4 acting categories. Usually, I feel like at minimum 2 of them seem like they're wrapped up. I know last year it was 3 because it was Sam Rockwell was pretty much a runaway, Gary Oldman was a runaway, and Allison Janney was a runaway. This year, I feel like 1 is maybe locked up, and the other ones I have no idea. So let's start there with actress in a supporting role. We have Amy Adams in Vice playing Mrs. Cheney. We have Regina King and If Beale Street Could Talk. We have Rachel. I don't know how to say it. Is it Weisz? I think
it was Rachel Weisz.
Weisz or Vice, not sure, from The Favorite. We also have Emma Stone from The Favorite, and we have Marina de Tavera from Roma. Apologies for butchering the pronunciation. It seems like everything I've read is leaning towards Regina King. I've seen all 5 of these movies, and I went into Beale Street knowing that there was all this hype surrounding her performance, and I thought she was really good. I didn't feel like she was like the best supporting actress that I've seen all year, but in this category specifically, and who the other nominees are, as much as I do have a fanboy crush on Rachel Weisz or Vice, she's not winning the Oscar for this. I think it's going to be Regina King.
Yeah, I agree with Regina King, and I'm going to pick Regina King as well. And honestly, I actually feel like I feel like all 4 of these categories are a wrap completely, but they're not runaways like last year. That's why, I mean, the confidence is not there, but I feel like there's one pick that I think they might pick that I will disown the Academy forever if they pick one of them. But I'm pretty sure they're gonna go this route, and it is a wrap. But it's just not. I mean, last year, just you reminded me of that. Those people were those nominees were leaps and bounds ahead of any other nominee. So This year's not like that, but it's pretty close. I think it's a good wrap.
All right, very good. I am interested to see what you have to say about this one. So we're going to do Best Supporting Actor. We have Mahershala Ali in Green Book, who just won 2 years ago for Moonlight. We have Sam Elliott finally getting an Oscar nomination for A Star is Born. We have Adam Driver in Black Klansman. We have Richard E. Grant for Can You Ever Forgive Me? And then, God help me, we have Sam Rockwell in Vice. This is really tough for me to take this stance because I loved it so much when Sam Rockwell won an Oscar last year, because up to that point I felt like he had been such an overlooked actor. And then this year, the pendulum has swung 180 degrees. I still love Sam Rockwell, but for him to get a nomination for Vice to me is just ridiculous, particularly considering Timothée Chalamet doesn't get a nomination for Beautiful Boy. I wouldn't mind seeing Sam Elliott or Richard E. Grant winning for this, but it feels like Mahershala Ali's, it's his to lose at this point.
So you're going with Mahershala?
That's right.
Yeah, I'm going with Mahershala as well. My notes on Sam Rockwell, which I think is kind of funny, is I feel like Adam McKay was like, "Hey man, you want to do George W. Bush?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I could probably fix something out. You want me to be like a very valiant, good?" He's like, no, just be hilarious the entire time. And I mean, it comes off. I agree with you. I don't think it's that great, but I was laughing like nonstop. Like, it was really weird. It was a weird performance.
Yeah, I don't know. It's fine. I don't dislike Vice. I don't dislike anything about the movie. Just for this to be considered one of the 5 best of the year, to me, is just, come on. That's
I'll also throw in, I'll follow up with the second because it does sound kind of brash, but Adam Driver as well, and Sam Elliott. Like, the Sam Elliott nomination really bothers me because of the fact that there are 30 other movies out there that Sam Elliott deserves a nomination for, and yet they do this thing where the Academy knows they mess up, and they bring someone in. I mean, people are raving about his performance in A Star is Born. He has like 7.5, not even 7.5 minutes of screen time. Not even. So, I mean, it's just like a weird... I feel bad. There's a lot of other movies out there that he deserves it for. And Adam Driver is just kind of like a meh for me.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot of people, like you said, Timothy Chalamet was left off the list. And I can't speak to Richard E. Grant, so I'm not going to. But yeah, Mahershala, I think that's who I'm picking. But this category's weird.
Yeah, I'm with you actually completely with what you're saying. Picking up on Adam Driver, I really like Adam Driver. Kind of like Sam Rockwell as an actor who flies under the radar a little bit. But for all the attention he does get for Star Wars, he's actually a really good actor. In a film like Patterson or something, he was never going to get a Best Actor nomination for that. But I don't know. I think at some point, if he continues down this career path, he's going to get an Oscar at some point. It just, BlacKkKlansman is not the role, and I'm not even sure he should have been nominated for it.
Yeah, I actually feel like the story of his character is so much more compelling than his performance. I think that's just the problem, is it overshadows, what he did on screen. So yeah.
One thing I want to note here before we get into our Best Actor and Best Actress, this isn't something that really got much attention, but I wish it would have gotten a little bit more, just so that this actor's name could have gone out there. Brian Tyree Henry. I don't know if you know the actor by name or not, but
yes.
In Beale Street. Holy crap, that one scene is so good. It blew me away.
Yes, Brian Tyree Henry is, he's an actor who I can't trace back his roots very far, but he was in the original Broadway show of the Book of Mormon, okay? And he's gone on now to, he's in Atlanta full-time? Is that the show that's the show he's in full-time now, which I just watched the Teddy Perkins episode of that tonight, which was hilarious and crazy. But that dude, he is going places. As long as he keeps on picking these really great roles and stuff, he's fantastic, super talented, and again, add him to the Timothy Chalamets of the world right now. Not on this list for some weird reason.
Yeah, he was really good. Watching Beale Street, you get your price of admission just for that one scene alone. It was so good.
It reminded me of the, I finally went back after, was it last year? It was the Timothy Chalamet and, what's that guy's name? Movie?
Armie Hammer?
Yeah, Armie Hammer movie.
Call Me By Your Name.
Yes. I went back and rewatched that scene with, forgive me, I don't know the actor's name for that.
Michael Stuhlbarg.
Yeah, just a fantastic. Tyree Henry scene was this year's scene from last year.
Yep.
I mean, just like incredible.
Yeah, I'm glad you made that parallel. I completely agree. That speech at the end is ridiculous, and the whole scene in their apartment talking about everything but prison and stuff is, things that will stick with you for a while. Let's do this. I think I have a pretty good idea of how this is going to go. Actress in a leading role, we've got, again, apologies for the pronunciation, Yalitza Aparicio from Roma, Olivia Colman from The Favorite, Melissa McCarthy, Can You Ever Forgive Me, Glenn Close in The Wife, and Lady Gaga, A Star Is Born. So I got to be honest, haven't seen The Wife, but everyone's saying that it's going to be this, so I'm going to trust that, and I'll take Glenn Close.
Yeah, I mean, how do you not pick Glenn Close? I'm picking her as well. I kind of wish... I really like Yalitza Aparicio. I can't. I'm terrible with like the, south of the border accents here. I didn't take Spanish growing up, but I really thought for a first-time nominee, she was really good. She was really good, and I'd like to see it, but it's not going to happen. The press is just too big for Glenn Close. I mean, and she's just so talented and ridiculous, but.
Yes. Well, she didn't get it for 101 Dalmatians, so she's finally getting it now.
Yeah, exactly. They gotta make up for lost time.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
All right, so we're down to 2 categories, and they're both pretty interesting, if you ask me.
Agreed.
So let's do actor in a leading role. We're getting into the nitty-gritty now. We've got Christian Bale in Vice, Willem Dafoe in At Eternity's Gate. He's been nominated for Oscars before. This is his first Best Actor. Viggo Mortensen in Green Book, Bradley Cooper in A Star Is Born, and then Rami Malek? Rami Malek?
Yeah, Rami Malek, yeah.
In Bohemian Rhapsody. Seems like a 2-man race between Christian Bale and Rami Malek, in Bohemian Rhapsody. I'm going back and forth because Bohemian Rhapsody, to me, the movie itself, didn't love it. Was the actor amazing in his portrayal of Freddie Mercury? Did he nail it? Absolutely. There's nothing he could have done better with that role. On the other hand, I don't love Christian Bale as a person, and Vice was, as much as I was like, yeah, this is entertaining, it's just like overall, whatever. I thought, not only, it's one thing to put on the weight and wear the makeup and all that stuff. His actual facial tics and expressions, all that stuff, fantastic. And not easy to imitate Dick Cheney, nor kind of just like the power, the anger, all that stuff going on that you can't convey through words because he's such a never really changes his tone of voice type of guy. So if I'm trusting my gut, and I think I have to at this point, I'm going to go with Rami Malek. But I kind of want to see Christian Bale win this because I really think he was amazing.
Yeah, I'm picking Christian Bale for this, definitely. I have Willem Dafoe as the dark horse, and pretty much every prediction I've read is this is the Rami Malek runaway, which I'm glad you liked it, but it just... That movie, like you said, the production itself, isn't all there, and it's just kind of like this cliche band flick, Yeah. And that just left such a sour taste in my mouth. It was really, really hard for me to like Rami's performance, and I guess I've been like very critical of him as like an actor for like the longest time because the fact that I just feel like I don't even know what it is because what he chooses is so varied, but I just want him to do something else. And, I don't know. I'm super conflicted with him because I'm like his biggest fan, yet his like biggest critic. And to see the predictions be like, oh yeah, there's like a 93% chance that Rami Malek's going to win. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? But a lot of people are compelled, and I'm glad people enjoyed it. I don't know. And it has nothing to do with Bryan Singer. Bryan Singer is dead to me, so I'm not even worried about that, but,
Well, there's another podcast we could spend an hour talking about, but...
seriously.
Yeah, I echo everything you said, and I want to see Christian Bale win this. If I'm just trying to get as many right as possible at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and say Rami Malek. Okay. We have arrived approximately 78 minutes into the Beantown podcast to our final category here, and one that is about as wide open as any of these categories we've talked about tonight, which is not typically the case. I've sort of got my divisions, my tiers in my head, so I'm interested to hear what you have to say. We'll discuss a little bit, then we'll make our final picks, and then we'll sign off so we can go to bed. Best Picture, we have 7 nominees, which I believe we've had 8 in the past couple of years, so this is a little bit different. We have Black Panther, we have Black Klansman, we have Bohemian Rhapsody, we have The Favorite, Green Book, Roma, A Star Is Born, and Vice. So I'll talk through it a little bit. We'll let Ryan talk through it a little bit. Then I do want to just quickly mention any movies that you really wish you would have seen nominated for Best Picture this year, and then we'll make our picks. I'm with you. You mentioned earlier there's no way in hell that Black Panther wins. I agree. Like, getting its nomination was more or less the victory that it wanted, or that we deserved, however you want to put it. Bohemian Rhapsody, in a similar sense, I've read a few things lately that have said, oh, maybe it's the dark horse. This movie, if it wins, I'm going to storm out and throw something. A Star is Born, I also really don't. Early on, it was kind of like, now A Star is Born is going to be the front runner. I don't think it's got a shot, but watch me eat my words. The Favorite, I thought was in really good shape, kind of leading up to it, and then when it came out, but it really hasn't done much in the last month or two. It's just kind of been there, and it's a good film, but I really don't think it's going to win. And Vice, kind of similarly, it got all this hype leading up to it. Came out on Christmas, and everyone's raving about Christian Bale and all that stuff, but I think as the actual overall body of a film, I don't see it really being a contender at the top level here. So that brings me down to 3 movies: Black Klansman, Green Book, and Roma. Black Klansman and Green Book are really interesting because they deal with somewhat similar topics, just race relations in general, but they deal with them in a completely different way, and they have polar opposite takeaways at the end of these films. This is just my gut feeling, but I don't feel like either one is a Best Picture winner. Black Klansman, there are just enough things wrong with it that I don't quite think it's going to make it. And then Green Book, and I've been seeing some people in the last couple of days saying that Green Book might be the favorite right now, but it's gotten its fair share of negative press, and I think warranted negative press, that I don't think it's going to make it. So that leaves me with Roma, and I'm kind of with what you said earlier in that I didn't quite have my mind made up, still going back through it. I was trying to just talk myself into it. I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at right now. Where are you falling, Ryan?
Well, let me start in the latter end down here with Vice. I love Adam McKay's movies. Everything from, Anchorman to Vice to I forgot what that. I always want to call it. It's called is it Moneyball? No, it's not called Moneyball.
You talking about The Big Short?
Yeah, The Big Short. There's like five movies that are like exactly like about the same exact thing, and I always get them confused. But Adam McKay will always make movies that I really enjoy, and thus being movies that will never win Best Picture, because that's just how it is. Things that I like don't win Best Picture. That's just typically, and that's okay. That's what happens when you're a basic white man. Is the shit that you like is just not that special. But A Star is Born, I'm on board with your thoughts exactly. It really didn't do it for me. I'm glad that Bradley Cooper got, the press that he did, because I think that I do see a lot of talent there. But the movie was just painfully, it was relatable, but at the same time predictable. If that's a good observation, I'm not sure. Green Book is weird for me, man. Like, I don't know. I don't want to be too brash, but it's like, I think it's like, it's not meaning to be, but it is like some weird, roundabout racist stuff going on in this movie. Like, there's some like weird, like Driving Miss Daisy vibes I get from this movie that are very bizarre and untimely for the current time we live in. And just this bizarre character arc with Viggo Mortensen, where he's like this racist dude, and by the end of it, he's just like magically not racist anymore. Like, and he got nominated for performance, and you know, performance doesn't necessarily mean writing, but the writing is so weird, and I cannot help but think that this is a glaring example of how disconnected the Academy is from. And I'm not saying they got to be super timely or anything like that, but it's just it's such a weird movie, and I don't get it. The Favorite, I think, is painfully cliche, but it's also very funny though. But they're not going to pick it because it is the cliche period piece, you know. Even though it does subvert it a bit. You know, it's a very funny movie. Black Panther and Bohemian Rhapsody, I think, are horribly hilarious picks to put in the Academy, and I don't know how they got here. I mean, well, I understand kind of why Black Panther got there. Bohemian Rhapsody, I wonder who paid who to get nominated, because it doesn't make any sense at all. In Black Klansman, I really liked, but just don't see, you know, making it as our best boy in the Oscar picks this year. I'm gonna have to go with Roma, first foreign language film to be nominated for Best Picture, first foreign language film to win an Oscar.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it would also be a nice, timely political punch to have the movie from south of the border win Best Picture.
Oh yeah, I guess I didn't even think about that. That makes sense. That's some good rationale behind it. I did not put those together at all. I
mean, I could say the same thing about Black Klansman to an extent. So something's going to be, or Black Panther, something's going to be political at some level at some point. But are there any movies, I'm sure there are, but what movies that didn't get nominated for Best Picture would you have liked to see in that field this year?
You know, unless you remind me of anything, I actually can't think of a single one that is omitted at all. I guess I could maybe say, like, I know it's nominated for animated Best Picture, but hey, why don't we throw Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse into Best Picture category? I don't think there's any rules against an animated movie making it. Because, I mean, like, if you think about it, couldn't Isle of Dogs be nominated? I don't know if there's any specific rules against that. I mean, throw it in there. It's the best movie I've seen this year, and I think it competes really well with the rest of them, as long as we throw some of these out here, because they're not very good. And probably, I will go as far as say, as this is one of the weakest Best Picture categories I've ever seen in my lifetime.
Yep, I'm with you. I was shocked and am still a little surprised a month and a half or whatever later that Beale Street isn't nominated for Best Picture. It seems like everything was there for it. It was completely talked about in that circle. It was Barry Jenkins' follow-up to Moonlight. I'm really surprised and also a little upset that that Beale Street wasn't nominated for Best Picture. Also a little surprised that First Man didn't get it. I feel like the only reason it wasn't sort of included in this conversation was just because it didn't do as well as at the box office. But I still thought it was a really good movie, and I'm surprised it wasn't nominated for Best Picture. Obviously, I would have liked to see, Eighth Grade or First Reformed get nominated for Best Picture. I know those were longer shots, but to have somebody like Eighth Grade not get any nominations is rough. There were definitely a couple other Best Pictures that I would have liked to see. One, because you can nominate up to 10, but two, like you said, is Bohemian Rhapsody really one of the best 8 movies of the year? No, and it's not close. So, yeah.
Beale Street, definitely, I'll have to agree with that. That's, I don't know, I have such an affinity for Moonlight. Like, I really love that movie. And Beale Street, I was seeing the trailer, I was kind of perplexed. I was like, I really hope this guy is not, this is not going to be some huge, sophomore slump, and it turned out to be great. It was a great movie. So it's not here, and the unfortunate thing, like you said, there can be up to 10, and it's not here, and also on top of that, there's some in here that don't deserve it, so it's kind of disheartening a little bit. This year, I will say, and there's been all sorts of Oscar controversy this year. This year has been a mess for the Oscars, and I don't know what they're going to do next year. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I'm just saying, there's definitely change needs to happen hardcore.
Yeah, this year was rough. It's disheartening. Well, the good news is they've got a host if they want it. Been working on the Oscars monologue. Myself wrote it, filming it, producing it, editing it. We're going to be dropping that on Sunday. But that should be pretty good. Ryan, I want to thank you for giving me 90 minutes of a weeknight here. Do you have any parting thoughts, whether it's about movies or just any projects you've got coming up, anything in general? I'm because I'm such a regular on this show, I actually have nothing to plug, and I have no final thoughts at all. I would plug the channel, but, things are kind of in flux currently. You know where to find us. We're out there, and content might be popping up here soon, but still got a lot of work that stands in between us and that happening. So, yeah, I really like hanging out on the Beantown podcast, my favorite podcast. Can't wait to do this next year. Hopefully the field will be much stronger because this year was a little rough. Yep, I hope so too. Well, Ryan, we'll keep you on the line for 1 second here. Thanks, everyone, for checking out our Oscars special. Don't forget to check out beantownpodcast.com, newly launched, as well as the Beantown blog. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can email us, beantownpodcast@yahoo.com. That's Beantown, BEANTOWN podcast @yahoo.com, and we will get back to you within 48 to 72 business hours. For all of us here at the Beantown podcast, for Ryan Ligon of Car Ride Convos Podcast and ReekEntertainment, thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget the Oscars this Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern. We'll be releasing our Oscars monologue shortly before that, so check out our YouTube channel, Facebook, Twitter, the website, all that to see that. All right, it has been a lot, and we are going to hit the hay. So thanks, everyone, for tuning in, and we will check in on you next week.